Hi, welcome back to another week of Obsessed by Everything Bravo. My name's Meredith and I'm your host through the Real Housewives journey, except for we're taking a little detour of Real Housewives and we are currently in the middle of season 1 of Shahs of Sunset. So we're taking a little detour from the Housewives. Don't worry, we're gonna be back to the Housewives next week. I have a very special announcement. Let me get my phone out. So I've always said, if you love the show, please give me a rating, please give me a review. You can reach out to me at a link in the show notes. And if you'd like to donate to the show, there's a link in the show notes. And guess what? Somebody did. I got my first donation. I don't know if people want me to announce names on here, so I'm not going to, but I did get my very first fan donation. And let me tell you, I was so happy. It was just like, oh my gosh, people like it, because really I have nothing to go on other than just downloads, right? And so what I've decided is obviously I do this for the love. Now, it'd be nice to make some money right now, but with everything going on in our country, it's just a really difficult time for people. I've decided that for the month of February, now I know that this is the second week of February that you're going to be watching or listening to this, and I understand that. It's a little late, but for the month of February and it also being Black History Month, I've decided that if anybody else makes a donation to the podcast, I'm just going to donate it all to the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee. And this is basically an organization that's been around for a while. So it's not something new that's just a pop up that could be a scam. That they are helping individuals who are forced into hiding, like Anne Franking it basically, and they can't leave the house for fear of being arrested and detained by ICE. So I think that's really important right now. A lot of people have not been able to go to work. They're not able to get food. They're not able to go to doctor's appointments, and they need money. So that is what I will be doing at the end of the month, on February 28th. I might just have the one donation, but if you feel called and you want to donate to the podcast, 100% of that money is going to be going to this. So just want to let you know that. And also I was just so excited that somebody loves me. So thank you very much. Maybe whenever I get a tiered, like a subscription content, I will probably announce those names, but I just didn't know how people would feel about it. So I'm not going to announce names. Let me know if you want me to announce your name. Anyway, we're here to talk about Shahs of Sunset, season 1. Today we're gonna be talking about episode 4, entitled "Waiting for MJ." Essentially, what we've seen so far is we were introduced to the Shahs. We were introduced to their Persian lifestyle of glitz, glam, over the top. We saw Reza's birthday party in Las Vegas. And then Reza had a champagne party at his house, where in Vegas and here at Reza's house, Gigi went absolutely batshit and went off on this girl Anita, went off on Mike at the very first day, and she's just legitimately got some real issues. And so, but at the end of the last episode, Anita and Gigi made up and they hugged it out. Okay. So we're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. All right. So we open up with Gigi at her home. She's kind of getting ready for someone to come over. And she says that her behavior has been disgusting. It's uncouth, but it's difficult to keep it perfect and peaceful all the time. Babe, no one is asking for that. We just don't be crazy. Nobody is asking for perfection. Gigi, the more I'm learning about her, and again, they have a new show that's on now that's like current, and I'm watching that and I'm like, oh my God. I feel like she's come so far, but yet not. But it's like, no one's asking you for perfection, babe. What we're asking you for is just like not to go crazy. Like the way that she was holding that spoon and people were like legitimately scared that she was going to hurt somebody. And she's also like super interested in guns and knives. Like, and What's so funny to me is that Gigi, Reza, and MJ, obviously the long-standing um, people on Bravo, not just because they're on the new show, but also, Reza and MJ were on Traders. I mean, they're like the Bravo darlings. They were at BravoCon when the show had just been announced. Now, granted, it had already filmed over the summer, but the show had just been announced. Like the viewers weren't really aware that there was going to be a second Valley show until BravoCon. So they're like the darlings. It's not like they were there to promote the show, right? I mean, I guess they were, but you know what I'm saying? And what I have to say about Gigi is that even though her behavior is completely and totally out to left field, totally inappropriate, she makes an amazing reality TV star because she's so authentic. And that is really where we lose things. And because most people would not want that side of them on national television, but she's okay with it because that's who she is. And that is what makes these people amazing reality. It's not the amount of drama that they can stir up, and it is dramatic, but it is that she just totally lives in her truth, even if it's shitty. And that's why they're still around, right? Because they live like that. Same with all of the housewives that are like still around. Maybe now things are changed because they feel like they have to produce themselves and et cetera, et cetera. But at one point they were completely authentically themselves, for good or for ill. If you think about Brandi Glanville is the same way. Teresa Giudice, the same way. Nene is the same way. They are who they are. And then there are some people that come on here and they seem like total frauds. Some of them make good Real Housewives, like Kim Zolciak. To me, she's giving phony. She's giving fraud. Phaedra, same thing. Sorry, I'm already watching Atlanta. I got a little bit behind. You know what? Last week, I just didn't really feel like recording. And I was a week ahead, so I just decided to take a break and just watch. So I'm already kind of in Atlanta. So in my mind, I'm in Atlanta already. But yeah, anyway, back to this. So Rosa comes over to Gigi's and he says it's part of Persian culture to give large gifts, and her parents' anniversary is coming up. So her and her sister are going to give her dad a new car. Oh, I think Gigi tells us this, but anyway, they're kind of chatting. They're talking about the anniversary party, and Reza's like, "Oh, I'm horrified. I won't be able to come to your parents' party." And then he tells us, "Thank the Lord I can't come to that party." And he says, "I have a blind date that same night." And he normally doesn't do blind dates, but he is looking for a man to settle down with because he feels like he only has a few good years left. And that's weird for a man to say that, because I feel like usually men are like, they feel like they don't have like a biological clock, kind of like women feel that they have. And so Gigi says, oh, she's like cutting food and she's like, "Are you sure it's a good idea to tell me you're not coming to my parents' party when I have a knife in my hand?" Probably not. And then Reza tells us we don't joke about Gigi and knives. She tells us that it's just something that she has always collected in her travels. So basically everywhere she goes, she just buys a knife, which I'm guessing that she checks that baggage. That's not in her carry-on. So then they go into the living room and she starts pulling out her collection of knives, and she'll be like, "I got this one from," I don't even know where she said, I didn't write it down, "Istanbul," or something. And it just be like a knife, and it's like, okay, I don't know. To me, knives all look the same. Like, is it a knife to cut my steak with or a knife to chop vegetables with? Other than that, I don't care. Okay, another boring scene where Sammy is going over to Mohamed's house, and I'm gonna tell you what, I was really soured on Sammy. He is, and we'll talk about it in the last episode, but he is kind of not. He is the opposite of Gigi, because everything that he every interaction that he has, and whenever he goes into the confessional booth or however they do it, it seems rehearsed, or it seems like he's a really bad actor who is saying lines, and it's like really stilted, and it's like, I really value Mohammed's opinion, so I want to make sure that this looks really good. And it's just like, okay. Whereas like when Gigi goes into the booth and she's just like, I understand my behavior's bad. She's just like very natural, right? And he's very stilted. And honestly, this guy Sammy, he is a huge piece of shit. I'm sorry. I never said that I was going to be unbiased on this podcast. He's a huge piece of shit, and I just don't have time for him. So, fuck him. So now we see a scene where Gigi goes out to lunch with her dad. She tells us, I'm blessed for my dad, and I would be an idiot to say I haven't lived a pampered life. And he's like, look, he's talking about her credit card statements, and he's like, look, you got to stop shopping. You've got to do something about your spending habits. You went shopping again. And she's like, but daddy, I have to buy clothes. And it's like $8,000 in one month and $6,000 another month. And I have to wonder, like, this was my thoughts. Like, she lives in an apartment. Is she keeping all those clothes because she's already kind of said that she doesn't like wearing the same thing twice? What's she doing with the clothes after she wears it? It's very clear that she's not like recycling her clothing. So what's she doing with the clothes after she wears it? Is it like, does she try to sell it? Does she give it away? Like, I have so many questions about someone who doesn't want to wear the same thing twice. It's just like so weird. Okay. What else? What else did they talk about? Gigi says that her parents have threatened many times to cut her off. And he tells her that she needs to find a Prince Charming or just do something about her spending. Basically, he's saying he's not going to do it anymore. Newsflash, he's still paying for her. But the year of our Lord, I don't know, it's probably next, or it's probably last year. It's probably not 2026, but in 2025, he's still paying for her. This poor man is having to work his ass off. And then, okay, well, let me get through this because I feel like I have more to talk about. So she tells us that my parents wanted me to have a job throughout my whole life, but I think they were afraid that if I went into work, I would piss somebody off. And he tells her, well, your sister works. And she says, my older sister lives a different life than me. She's a businesswoman, has been married 7 years, so she doesn't understand the concept that I'm still on daddy's payroll. Okay. So this is, I've seen all this stuff previously, but like I said, I've never revisited this and rewatched this unless it just happened to be on one day. But this was the thing that was really making me think, right? So imagine your little sister is so problematic with her anger issues that she can't have a real job. And so your parents, your aging parents can't focus on their own retirement. They have to pay for her to have an apartment, to spend $8,000 a month shopping, to buy a car. Also, who's buying this car? Like, so basically Gigi just picking out a car that for her parents that her parents are paying for. That doesn't make any sense. So for me, and she's like, well, me and Layla, that's her sister, have a bad relationship. Yeah, I can imagine. I would also be very resentful of my adult sister who's 30 years old at this point, who still basically is like a child, has so much anger and is not dealing with it in any kind of like meaningful way, can't hold down a job, et cetera, et cetera. I would be pissed. I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't want a relationship with you either if you were using my parents like that. Like, I guess theoretically the Shahs of Sunset becomes her job, but the amount that you're spending, the Shahs of Sunset is never going to make the money to make up for that. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so now we find out that MJ's birthday is coming up and she's 35. And so she's like, I don't need like a huge to do for my birthday. Reza comes over and they take the dogs for a walk. And he tells us that, my dad's called and he wants to reconnect. So then we hear the story again about how his parents divorced, and it was because his dad was basically cheating on his mom. And then when they got a divorce, he moved out to like Long Island essentially, and was just kind of out of Reza's life, and that really affected him. So now that his dad is trying to reconnect, and I mean, this is like 15, 20 years later, he's like, okay, but he wants to take a trip out there and he wants MJ to go with him. And she's like, of course, I'm going to go with you. The other thing that I just want to touch on because it is important is that his mother was Muslim and his father was Jewish. And so the dad had to convert religions in order for them to get married, I guess, in the Muslim church. Now, and in the, in the Jewish tradition, it's normally the religion goes with the mother. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's just how it happened. And so essentially, Reza thinks, and I don't know that it's not true, but he thinks that religious divide in the Middle East was the thing that broke their marriage apart. And I can't say that it's not. You know what I mean? I don't know these people. We will, but it isn't. I just want to lay that groundwork because that's what's going to be important when we next episode when we go there. And I just want you to remember that. So then they're talking and he's like, they're talking about how they both need to lose weight, which honestly, no, they don't. They both look great. Compared to like later years, they're really the tiniest that they've been. And, honestly, what MJ needs, she doesn't need to lose weight. She needs to get a breast reduction because she's heavy breasted, right? And that's makes people, I mean, it honestly looks like it hurts. It makes people look like larger than what they are, is just because their tits are out to here. You know what I mean? So, but they're talking about losing weight and he's like, I'm going to get you something special for your birthday. We're going to go and we're going to get a colonic treatment. Which this must have been the thing during this time, because I feel like there was like a wave of people getting colonics on camera. Because this is like definitely the first time that we see it. But it's not the first time that it happened. I 1000% I've seen Vicky get a colonic on television. So this must have been like the latest thing that was going around, right? Okay, so now this is the scene where Gigi and Layla go shopping for their car. We learn a little bit more about Layla. She's very business savvy. She's negotiating for the car. And then they sort of start fighting about the amount that Gigi is going to pay. Again, she does not have a job. Like, she can't pay anything. It's your dad's money. So Gigi says that her feelings were hurt, but she was embarrassed because she's not getting respect from her sister in front of like the dude that they were buying the car from. Why would she give you respect? Like, make that make sense, babe. We go to another scene with Mohamed and Sammy, and I don't give a fuck. So this Mohamed, though, he's building a new house for himself, and I had to look and be like, is this the house that we just had that party in? Pandora's engagement party? But no, it's a new house, but it looks very similar because they have like the downstairs little like Moroccan tiles in that pool area. But I'm pretty sure it's a different house because the backyard looks different. Like the one that we saw in Pandora's, which they also had a party last year there. Yeah, they had a party last year, so there's no way they could be building it. Okay, so it's definitely not. But I was just like, it just looks similar, obviously, because Mohamed probably has similar tastes, so all of his houses probably look similar. Anyway, that was me thinking out loud. Okay, now we go over and we see Asa. Okay, so Asa is an artist. We've known this. She's been telling us this for a while. She says that she makes music for people like herself. that live in a cosmopolitan world, but are refugees and immigrants. So it's like they have two cultures. And so she is going to meet with a music producer so he can listen to her music. So Asa's big thing is like she doesn't want to be a sellout. Like she doesn't want to go commercial and make all this money for her art. She just wants her art to be her art. So she's not interested in appealing to the masses. She's interested in just making her art, and the people that like her art will like her art. And that's great. And you know what? If we just left it at that, it would be fine. That's not how it goes in future seasons. But I also want to point out that she's driving a Mercedes sports car. Now, I don't know cars, so I can't tell you what kind it is, but it's a 2-seater, so it's a sports car. And the other thing that I want to tell you that I haven't really spoke about yet is that she's her life partner, and she does have a child eventually with this man, is a Jackson. Like as in the Jackson 5, one of the children. I don't know. I don't know which one. We never see this person on the show. She is with that person now. So she has the money. I would assume that the Jackson 5, LaToya Jackson's nephew, is probably still have access to money. She also has access to music people in the industry. I would assume so, So I don't know. I just feel like I just feel like that's knowledge that needs to be said, because of course you can have your artistic principles and you don't want to be a sellout when you already have multi-million dollars family. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's very easy to stick to your principle when you're not like literally a starving artist. You can just make art for fun. And honestly, like in my ideal world, I would love to just make art for fun. Like I wish everybody could just make art for fun, but that's not what happens when we live in a capitalist society. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It just seems strange. Oh, I'm having technical difficulty. Okay, let's pray that my recording is okay. Okay, so we're talking about Asa. So she's driving her expensive sports car to meet with a music producer, obviously that she has connections with. And she says he's worked with big artists, names them, I don't care. And she wants him to listen to her music and to give his opinion. So the big song that she's working on, several songs, the Diamond Water one, but also this Tehrangelis. And the Tehrangelis song is the one that she's like really thinks is going to make a splash in on iTunes or something. So we find out that the Tehrangelis, she sings in Farsi. And that is the language that they all speak, which is interesting. They make a note to say we speak Farsi, not Arabic. And so he's like, well, first of all, it's not in English. That's if you want to be on the American radio, that's going to be a hard sell. And that's not impossible. Obviously, there are people who the song's not bad when they play it. It is not in English, so I don't understand a word of it. And he says, and it's 5 minutes, so 5-minute songs do not go on the radio. And he's like, I understand that, the Persians, like people, like in your community will definitely really like this. It's a good song, but it's like not for everyone. You know what I mean? And he's like, if you want to be big, if you want to be on the radio, I'm down to work with you. But if you just want to be vibing, then I'm just going to be a fan on the side. And so essentially what he's saying is you've got to make this more commercial if you want it to be commercially successful. If you want to make your art, then that's cool too, but I'm not going to like put my name on it, essentially. And we've heard this kind of stuff before when we're talking about like Kim Zolciak, and it's like what people need to understand, it's like, it's a business. And when you're like a Candy Burris or this guy who, I didn't get his name either, but these people, this is their job. You know what I mean? So they take it, it's not like just in a basement, just, whatever, cranking out, just whatever. This is like their job, and they're not going to put their name on something that they're not going to be like proud of. And not to say that you can't be proud of what Asa is doing here. I mean, this is completely different from Kim Zolciak. So don't think I'm comparing Kim and Asa. But what I'm just saying is he wants to sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. I don't know. Long story short, he's like, no, we got to make some changes. So she's basically like, well, this is hard to hear, but I want to stay authentic. And I don't think that I can create something just so millions of people will like it. And he goes, you act like you're allergic to the radio, but you can still get on the radio and still be yourself. It's just, we have to like kind of compromise here. And she tells us he wants to put me in a machine that I go through, and when I come out the other end, people will want to listen, but I just don't know if I want to go in that machine. And honestly, I respect it. It's artistic integrity, and that's totally fine, but it's just like, what are we doing here? Because it's not that she's not good. It seems like she is good. He seems like he likes the music, but it's just like not appealing to a large audience. Anyway. So in the next scene, we go over to MJ's, and this is where she's like, look, I don't need fireworks for my birthday. I just want to have a small intimate dinner. So her mother, Vita, and Reza are coming over for dinner that she's making, or maybe she purchased, I'm not sure. But she's setting up, and she's setting the table, and she says, anytime my mom is involved in an activity, I'm plagued with stress that everything is not perfect. So then they're bickering about what kind of food she's going to put out, because this is another thing that they always say about the Persian culture is like they love food. Again, this is like something that drives me nuts. It's like all cultures love food, but they like to have like little noshes, I guess, when people come over. And so it's crazy to see the amount, like they'll have somebody come over and the amount of food. Like they'll have one person come over and they have this huge like charcuterie spread, nuts, olives, different drink options. And I just have to say, nobody is going to eat. That's like something you would have like 10 people come over. That's the amount that they have. That is one thing that's like different, like very specific to Shahs of Sunset and like the Shahs Valley or whatever, that they continue to do. So that is very cultural, because even though like the Italians love food or, whatever, they're not putting out like all this food. And then they also have to wonder, they're also like, oh, we need to lose weight. We need to lose weight. Well, there's like constantly surrounded by food. There's no way. Okay. Reza comes by. Of course, he's brought presents. They're chatting at the table and they're talking about the colonic that they're going to do. And Reza's like, I have something important that I want to talk to you about. They're like, okay. And he's like, I haven't talked to my dad in a year, but we're going out there and MJ's coming with me to go to New York City. But I just found out that my grandmother is going to be there. I've only met her a handful of times. So Vita's like, well, your parents got divorced because they couldn't get along, right? So why are you mad at your dad if your parents couldn't get along? Okay. Speaking of biases that come in, and MJ's like, what? She goes, so she's basically like, why are you upset that your parents got a divorce? That's not your problem. And obviously Vita, who also got a divorce from her husband, there's maybe some guilt there that she doesn't want to like own up to. So MJ's like, you need therapy and lessons in compassion. And Reza goes, well, I used to call him Hugh Hefner. And Vita's like, oh, so he's a real playboy? Just let him flirt. And MJ's like, what are you talking about? Why? How is that so easy for you to say? That's so insensitive. So then Vita's like, why do you put him in a cage? Why do you want to limit him? And Reza's like, cage? And Vita's like, yes, he wants to be free. And MJ tells us, well, my parents' marriage started to unravel when I was 6. And I remember very vividly because there was another man on the scene. So maybe Vita is taking this a little bit personally. So flirting, she says flirting is just not something that you want to see your parents doing while they're in the same room, like flirting with other people while they're in the same room with your other parents. And then MJ tells us, of course, my mom is so defensive because she refuses to see the fact that that what you do can affect your children even 20 years later, obviously. Then we go to the scene of Reza and MJ getting colonics. I don't feel like I need to describe this to you. And then Reza also goes on his blind date. So this is the reason that he misses Gigi's party. This blind date is not gonna be love. Not that it doesn't go well, but yeah, not a match. Okay, then we go to Gigi's parents' anniversary dinner. So it's their 40-year anniversary, which honestly claps to people making it. And I'm pretty sure that they're still married. So, good job. I mean, congratulations. Nowadays, that's hard. And so they're, all the friends are there, family, whatever. And they're like, hey, we got something to show you. And they drag them down. They have to walk all these stairs to get down to the street. And they're like, here, presenting them with their new car. And you could kind of see that the dad was like, no, I'm not taking this. Like he was having like a hard time receiving this gift. And I have to be like, babe, you're paying for it. You might as well just receive it. Well, paying for half of it or however much that Layla is not paying for. So they go back and it's just like a normal party. I mean, it's at their house. They've got lots of food. They got music. They got dancing. It's mostly, her parents' friends and their families. So it's older people and they're just, kicking it. But Gigi did invite all of the Shahs, right? So Mike shows up and he says which we haven't seen anything out of Mike in a while. He says it's inspiring to see people married for that long, but he's not ready to settle down just yet. So he will never make it to 40 years of marriage because he'll die. He's like 35 years old. None of the other Shahs have come yet, and Gigi starts to get upset. Asa shows up, and Gigi says, no, it's nice that Asa showed up knowing that we had that little fight. But she still showed up to my party, so that feels really good. And Asa was like, well, I was late because MJ was supposed to come and get me. I knew that was a bad idea, and when she was just already late, I just had to leave and come here on my own. So they're meeting Gigi's aunties and uncles, and one of them's like, oh, I love your music, Asa. I know you. I've seen it online. And so... also says after that meeting where he told me I was too weird for the modern world, but then I go to this party and people know me and love what I do, that felt very validating. And Gigi's starting to get more and more upset that MJ is not there. They're cutting the cake. It's starting to get to like where the party is getting ready to be ending, and MJ shows up. Of course. So Gigi says, someone could be disrespectful to me in my house. That's one thing, but you're disrespectful to my parents in my presence. You and me, we've got a problem. And MJ's like, look, I had a lot going on today, and that might be a reality check for people who live on their father's dollar, but for people who support themselves as a businesswoman, this is normal. Work takes priority over parties. And even though Gigi greeted me warmly, I still feel the wrath is on its way soon. And Gigi says, we all have things going on. If you're really involved in your things, don't show up late for a party. Don't show up rude. Just say you can't come to the party, which she's true. And technically MJ came like at the end of the party, which is really rude. She just should have said, I can't come, when it was the beginning of the party and she felt like maybe she wasn't going to be able to. She just should have not come. but it is what it is. And that is the end of the episode. So, laying some groundwork for the next 2 episodes, and we will talk about them then. Again, thank you so much for listening. As always, leave a rating, leave a review, subscribe to the podcast. You can reach out to me and you can donate. And don't forget, my donations will be donated to help those living in Minneapolis. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.